You are probably not getting any alert when I post on the forum. Second, I will put here some surveys for self-evaluation and for evaluating the teacher. You know that at the end of the course you will have to fill a form online in order to give your opinion on the teacher and the subject. First recommendation, you don't have to miss that day, I'll tell you in advance, and I really would like that you give your feedback. It's an official feedback that you give to the university. As you know, it's anonymous. I don't see it. I see the results in statistical form after 6 months. It's very important because it's very articulated and it gives you the opportunity also of writing. And I'll tell you more when we get close to it. It's important because you give first a feedback to me and articulated feedback. Second, the feedback that you give to me is useful, is used by the university for providing resources to the teachers, which, okay, it's not very important to you, adjusting maybe the study plan if it comes out that, you know, there is a shared and dominant opinion that some subjects are more important than others, etc. So it is extremely important that you provide this service to the uni. And it's a way to, to make your role meaningful as a student in the politics of the university, politics in the positive sense. If you give your opinion, I tell you, you are heard, and your opinion matters, especially if it's a shared opinion, of course, and if it is a thoughtful opinion, and thoughtful means that it's shared, basically. So, first message, the official survey, please attend it. Again, I tell you in advance and I'll explain better how it works. Second, the interim evaluation during the subject that I propose to you, it's useful because it allows me to correct. If I see that something is going not really well, I can correct. So this is why I really would like to get your feedback also on Moodle, and I propose you these evaluation tests of the teacher, evaluation forms. They are anonymous, I tell you, okay, and I want to show you what I see, because I really want to be convincing on the fact that they are anonymous. So let me go to another course of mine. The first semester, it's in Italian, so sorry for that. So here there is the course, and let's go to the bottom. You see here there is second questionnaire of about student opinion. So if I click on that, of course I don't see the questionnaire because I am the teacher, but if I click on view the answers, this is what I see. This is what I see. There are the questions and I see the statistics. So basically there were, for each question, 4 alternatives, like no, yes, and between no and yes, between yes and no. And you see here the percentage of students that replied to each question. But this is what I see, no names. I have no means to see your names. There are other tools in Moodle that are not anonymous. I'm not using them. Okay, so second issue. There is a self-evaluation test, and basically it's anonymous again. And in order to make it anonymous, I need to use the survey in the form of closed answers. And again, what I see is for each answer, the percentage of people who replied to each alternative. And I don't see the names. Now it's again sleeping. Now it works for the mirrors, so let me stay here. Now, okay, but anyway, it's again, the results are in statistical form. What do you see when you fill this questionnaire? Basically there are, in this case there were 25 questions, and at the end the system gives to you your percentage of correct questions. Like you replied correctly to 95% of the questions. And the system doesn't tell you what are the wrong answers. And this is not a feature that I wanted to impose. It's just the anonymous questionnaire that is structured in this way. In order to give you a more detailed output, I should use the not anonymous one, but I don't want to use it. Maybe next year. And so basically, I think it is very useful because in any case, not knowing what are the questions that you basically failed, I think it's an additional motivation to repeat the questionnaire, to try several alternatives, and each time you repeat, you memorize the questions. Keep in mind that the questions are more or less the questions that I asked in the exam. Not really the same, because these are closed answer questions, but you know, there is of course, there is a link. The questionnaire for you will be made available in, let's say, the first one in 1 month from now, or maybe less than that. Let's see, okay? And I think it is very useful because I realized that there are several students that aim to get the max mark, 30, or 30 with laude. And I realized that sometimes it's not clear to you how good is your preparation if you want to get the max. And I think a self-evaluation test is a good I mean, I think it's meaningful. If you get 100%, you are well prepared. And it's not easy, you will see, because in some cases there might be more than one correct answer, and in some cases there might be no correct answer, and therefore you have to select no correct answer. So it's not easy, and if you get 100%, it's a good, in my experience, it's a good sign. Okay, now, this is about IOL. Again, just go for it when you need it. You need to fill the questionnaire, I'll tell you, and when you need to read the news. Okay, let's close it. I go back to the mirrors, let's see if they work now. So, as I said, these are the mirrors. Let me select one from Austria. If it works, it's very easy. Okay, you see here, download R for Linux, Mac, Windows. If I click on Windows, you see here, base, contrib, alt, contrib, just base. So you click on base, download R for Windows, and then you get your exe file. Now it's already downloading. Your exe file, and you just have to double click it, and it goes on. Okay, very easy. Okay. Now let me see. Okay, this is R. Now, calendar of the lectures. This is the calendar that I hope to be able to maintain. Everything will be taught by me. I don't get any substitute if I can, but usually I succeed. And this is the calendar. There are some gaps, particularly in April, because April there is a long Easter break, as you know, and the week, not the week before the Easter break, but let me say the week between April 8, which is a Monday, and April 12, which is a Friday, I am abroad for a conference, so I'm not teaching that week. So you see that there is a gap from April 4 to April 15, and then April 29, and then May. Now, the calendar is extended up to May 27 because ideally I would like to close the lectures by May 20. But I couldn't find any space because this calendar is still missing 4 hours, and it is written here. So, I would like to find a way to fill these 4 hours plus maybe other 2 between these dates. And there might be some opportunities later, not now. Now we start with the official calendar and we stick on it. Later on, there are some courses that will end, and if you agree, we may decide to either make 3 hours instead of 2 when we have lectures, or schedule additional dates. This is up to you. If you instead prefer that I teach up to June 6, so without making additional hours in some weeks, this is perfectly fine to me. It's just an option that I would like to give to you, because in my experience, students like it. Why should you like it? Because, now let's talk about the exam. Because as soon as I finish my lectures, I give to you the opportunity to take a pre-exam after a few days. You decide. If you want, I could even decide the dates now. So we could say, okay, let's say that we close on May 23rd, and we find a way later to put these 6 lacking hours into the schedule. And if we are motivated, we can do it for sure. And then if we close on May 23rd, we may have the exam on May 27th, for instance. And pre-exam means that I cannot register the mark. I have just to write on a paper. You wait and you trust me that at the first official exam date, I record the mark, I register the mark. In principle, I wouldn't be allowed to do that. So if you don't like this procedure, please don't take the pre-exam. If you don't like the fact that you have to trust me, if you don't like the fact that I am registering an exam at a later date, you know, the rector told me that I shouldn't do that. So, and I replied by saying, look, rector, I think the students benefit from it, so let me go on. But if you don't like it, it's very simple. You don't take the pre-exam, okay? And pre-exam, and then I am allowed to make exam starting from June 7, something like that. The day after the closure of the lecture, the official closure. I think the official closure is June 6 or 7. I need to check the calendar. So I will schedule an official exam just the first day I can do that. Which means that it's about 10 days after the pre-exam. Then I will schedule an additional exam before the end of June. So you will have a pre-exam, 2 exams in June, and 1 exam in July. Usually you are few students, like 15, 20 people. If this is the case, usually what I say is, students, try to stick on the exam dates, but if you really have a problem, I am also available in other dates. It's a bit risky because in the official exam date I am committed to make the exam, so there is no way, even if I am called by the rector, by whoever, I have to say no, I scheduled the exam, I have to be there. In another date, it happens sometimes that I'll write to you 1 day earlier and I say, look, we need to change the timing, to change the date, the day after tomorrow instead of tomorrow, because I got an academic commitment. So I just want to make it clear. I am flexible, possibly not for everybody. I cannot take the commitment of making 15 exams in 15 different days, but if you have particular needs, as I said, I am willing to adapt. It's a bit risky for you because, as I said, I have precise duties with respect to the university, and the exam is a priority. But if it is in the official date, otherwise the priority goes down. It's clear to you? Okay. And then we will have exams in September. Usually I am also available to make exams even during the lectures, another thing that I shouldn't do. But given that you are few students, this is possible. So even if you want to take the exam in October, in November, in December, this is possible. Or now, not now for you, but now I'm making exam for previous year students in March, April, May, etc. Okay, so how is my exam structure? It's an oral examination, essentially, but keep in mind a couple of features. First, the duration is short, 20 minutes usually. Maybe less. If you are very good, it's less than 20 minutes. If you are not very good, it may be half an hour. It depends on you, but usually for me it's about 15-20 minutes. Usually I make the exam to 2 students at the same time. So it's an oral examination, but in order to make 2 exams at the same time, what I do is that the first question in such a case is written and then discussed orally. So typically I have 2 students, one student close to me and the other student at the other side of the table. So what I do with the far student, I let him, her know the question, and then the student starts writing, not as a written exam, just writing notes, writing the relationships, the analytical proofs, the figures. It's not an extensive writing. And then, when I concluded the exam with the first student, we discuss the question that was written down orally. So it's a kind of mixed oral written, but essentially it's oral examination. Usually I ask 2-3 questions, and the first one is a question that lends itself to discussion, because it's an important thing for me to evaluate your ability to speak and to present. So I want you speaking. Why I want to evaluate this? Because when you will go for a job interview, your ability to speak will matter a lot. I would say that it's even more important than your skills, your computing skills or your knowledge of the theory. It's more important in a job interview, your ability to speak. Also, in our professional life, for everybody, not only engineers today, communication is becoming more and more important. And it's not like in the past. The engineer in the past were used to sit at a table with a lamp and writing analytical computations and then providing the calculations without almost any speaking. Today is completely different. You have to engage with your customers, with your clients. You have to explain why you took some decision, and you have to provide a good motivation. And today there is an increasing need for evidence from people, because it's modern society. So it's becoming a bit more difficult to find evidence today, because you have a lot of information. So indeed, the communication is becoming more and more important. And therefore I want to check your ability to speak. So keep in mind that this is a part of my evaluation. So you may know everything, but if your presentation is not good, I may propose a 28. So a couple of marks, not really. I don't reject a student for a poor presentation. But in order to get the max mark with me, you have to take care of your presentation. I think also my colleagues work in this way, but I want to make it clear. And just try it. So my suggestion for you is, if you get together in a group or maybe alone closed in a room, try to reply to my questions. I'll tell you what are my typical questions. It's not a mystery. So I tell you, I may ask you at the exam this question, this question, this question, and try to reply. And if you try, you realize if you provide a good presentation. A good presentation means that ideally I should say anything. I listen to you and that's it. And a good presentation is concise. Don't start from the invention of the wheel. I tell you, there are some students that tend to do that. So if my exam lasts for 20 minutes, the first question is no more than a 10. So no more than 8, 10. So you have to be calibrated. You get an idea of the question, and you have to speak for no more than 6, 8, 10 minutes. And as I said, you don't have to start from the beginning of your bachelor, okay? And also, the fact that I said I don't say anything, because if I have to ask additional questions, additional details, it means that your presentation was not complete. So this is a rule that you should use. You provide a reply, and there is nothing more to say. And this is important. Like for a job interview, it's extremely important. If they ask you, what is your background, they shouldn't be obliged or compelled to ask you details, because you speak and you say what is your background. That's it. So you talk a bit about your bachelor and a bit about your master degree. But if you talk only of the master degree and then they need to ask, and what about your bachelor? It means that it's not very good. So just try to be concise, clear, don't speak more than required, and exhaustive. Okay? And if you have any question for me, any need for suggestion, just let me know. Okay, and this is written here. The highest score is reserved to students who demonstrate a full knowledge of the notion, a very good ability to address questions through an efficient synthesis, and a very good presentation. That's it, it's explained. The laude is reserved to students who demonstrate exceptional motivation and integrate the course content with additional notions by following their personal interest and attitude. I think it is clear. Okay. If you need to contact me because you need additional clarification, etc., just send me an email. My email is alberto.montanari@unico.it, very easy, you find it on my website everywhere. And the easiest, my preferred option is to meet you after the lectures. Otherwise, I give you an appointment. Usually, the students don't ask me much for clarification, but if you feel that it's needed, absolutely no problems. Okay. Let me see. I think that now I can be a bit more specific and talking about the subject. Before talking about the subject, and I have 20 minutes, so we have some time. First of all, how to organize the lectures. We have 2 + 2 hours. If you agree, I will start 9:15 and no break up to 10:45. If you don't agree, just let me know. If you want a break, no problem, I can do it. Okay? So I assume that if you don't say anything, I assume that this is fine. But again,
no, it's fine.
Okay. And now let's make a round of introduction. You start and then I introduce myself. I just need to know your name, where are you from, your bachelor, and whatever you think it's useful and you want to add, it's perfect. You start.
I'm Rodolfo Badioli, an Italian student. I got my bachelor here in Bologna.
In what?
In civil engineering. Civil engineering.
And you're a student of civil or?
No, I'm following the Italian course, the Italian
in Ingegneria Civile.
In Ingegneria Civile.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
No, you want to add something? No.
I'd like to follow English exams.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, this is perfect.
So my name is Rodrigo. I'm from Spain, and my bachelor is in civil engineering.
And you took your bachelor in Spain?
Yes.
Okay. And you are attending the degree program on?
The master degree program is, well, in Spain we have like...
No, but here in Bologna, you are... no, you are an Erasmus student?
Yes.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, thank you. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm an Erasmus student too, from Germany, from Cologne, did my bachelor in Cologne, Cologne it's called in civil engineering,
Okay.
and then specified on water engineering, and water management, and my master I did in I'm doing in Aachen, next to Cologne,
Okay.
and now here for a semester.
And the master is in civil engineering again?
No, it's specified in water engineering.
Water, okay. And what about your master? Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah, sorry, in Spain we don't have like water engineering or infrastructure, we have like all mixed in the same master.
Okay.
So we have the degree, in the bachelor you do decide between infrastructure, structural or water. I choose water, but in the master is again general, so you like learn everything. So I have like mixed courses.
Okay, that's perfect. You are finished?
Yeah, I'm 24 and
Yeah.
what is it say?
Okay.
So I'm Pauline, I come from France, and
France.
I'm also an Erasmus student. So here I want to specialize in water, so I come from environmental masters, but I really want to specialize in water.
In water, okay.
Yeah.
And your bachelor was in, probably you told me already, your bachelor was on what subject?
So it's an environmental master, so
Okay,
it's
okay.
about waste, we've got
Okay,
sustainable development, so
okay, that's perfect. Please?
I'm Federico. I graduated here in Bologna. I'm enrolled in civil engineering, infrastructure, and river basins curricula. And
Okay, okay, perfect. And you graduated here for the bachelor, you said?
yeah,
In
civil engineering.
civil engineering, okay, perfect. Please?
I'm Gita. I'm from Albania. Graduated
From,
there.
sorry?
Albania.
Albania, okay.
Graduated there in my bachelor degree, and now I'm following regularly the master course,
Okay,
specifically the curriculum of infrastructure design.
okay,
on a basis.
okay. So, okay, perfect. And what about you?
I'm Elena, I'm an Italian student. I studied here in Bologna and I graduated in Ingegneria Civile.
Okay, okay, perfect. And now you are attending the,
Ingegneria Civile.
okay, in Italian.
Yes.
In Italian, okay, perfect. Okay, so now it's my turn. I am a civil engineer, and I graduated when the Italian system was not divided between bachelor and master. It was a 5-year course. I graduated in 1992 in Parma. Parma is a city that is in the same region here. And I am actually still living in Reggio Emilia, so I don't live in Bologna. I am a commuter. I commute by train. It's about 60 kilometers, 1 hour door to door, so it's manageable. And as I said, I am a civil engineer, but I focused during my curricula was on, it was called river basin management. And at that time was one of the first curricula in river basin management in Italy. And when I graduated, I had the opportunity to take a PhD in Milan. And I was not looking for a PhD, but my thesis advisor was asking me, and then I said, why not? So I went for 3 years in Milan, and I took a PhD at the Politecnico in hydraulic engineering, but in hydraulic, not fluid mechanics. Okay, I know something of fluid mechanics, but it was more concentrated on hydrology and hydraulic works. And then I wanted to take a professional career, but I got an opportunity here in Bologna for a postdoc, by chance, essentially. And I decided to take the postdoc, and then by chance they posted a position as an assistant professor here. And I felt really, I had a good feeling for Bologna. In Milan I felt like it was a too busy city for me. But Bologna I had a good feeling, so I decided to run for this position, and then I became an assistant professor in 1998, an associate professor in 2001, and a full professor in 2012. And when I started my academic career, it was still the time when professors in engineering used to associate the academic activity with professional activity. And indeed, during my PhD, I did some professional activity because I needed some economic support for paying my studies, etc. But after getting the position in the university, I realized that it was really not my way, the professional activity. So I decided to concentrate on research. And so essentially today I am a researcher, and which means that I don't have a very good experience in practical works. As I said, I did some professional activity, but I didn't manage very important design projects. I managed minor things. And now I'm not doing any professional activity anymore, which means that I can't teach to you how to manage construction works, etc. Of course, given that I'm concentrating on research activity, I am informed and up to date to recent scientific developments. So this is where I can give you most. And also I am, given that I feel anyway committed to problem solving, I am doing some consultancy through the university. This is possible. There are it's quite frequent the case where public administration, water boards, they address questions to the university, and therefore the consultancy activity aims to solve the problems that they have. And I am quite busy on that, which I think is important for me, because the only research sometimes becomes too empirical and a bit detached from the real needs. While I think it's important for an engineer in particular to look at the problems and to concentrate on problem solving. So this is basically my personal history. And now I am chairing also the department here for 2 more years, and which makes me a bit busy, but I am committed to keep teaching as my first priority. And in the past was not like that, because I needed, probably research was my first priority. Now teaching and research, they are my first priorities. I try to keep both of them. And talking about teaching, I decided to make an effort to, okay, let me make a premise. I am a bit concerned and stimulated, both of them, by the changing world. And I think that society is changing a lot. And this is very good, because it's, if we don't change, life becomes very boring. But on the other hand, it's a challenge. So I thought that even teaching should change, and indeed teaching changed a lot in the past 5 years. So, and it's a need. And I decided in the past couple of years, because also the university pushed for it, and it's still pushing for it, to try some innovative teaching. So in this web page you will find a mention to a project that the department recently launched called Interacting Academy, because we want to promote an innovative way of teaching which is based on interaction. And what does this mean in practice? First, innovation is not just interaction, or let's say it can be an indirect interaction like through videos. And but besides taking videos, besides using open access material, what I would like to try to reach with you, and I started last year and the experience was positive, is to try to be more interactive than usual. What does interaction means? First of all, there are some examples here, somewhere here. Let me show you the list. These are some of the experiences that I already tried and I found very interesting. Besides the videos, short presentation by students. And this, I think, it is extremely interesting. Keep in mind, these activities, if you want and if you wish, can be part of your final assessment. So can make the exam shorter and a bit more robust, because a 20-minute exam is something that there is also a contribution of chance in your performance. Instead, if we interact for 3 months, the effect of chance is more limited. So if you prepare a presentation and you deliver the presentation to the audience, first I can assess your ability to speak and be relaxed. If something goes wrong, simply we don't take it into account. It's an option, and it's an option to take it into account for the exam. But as I said, first I assess your ability to speak. You improve your ability to speak, because it looks like an easy thing to deliver a presentation to your colleagues, but it's not so easy. You will see it, because you get a little bit agitated, and also you realize that the presentation it's not so clear, and you realize it when you try. And so I think it is a very good opportunity, and also it is an opportunity because you can speak on whatever you want. My only condition is that it should be pertinent to the course and technical. not just a blah blah blah, because today there is also in research a tendency to speak a lot, and when you go to the essence, there is nothing in there. So what I would like to say is, first, I can give you suggestions for a topic, but the ideal situation would be where you suggest the topic, like a case study. Last year I had students coming from abroad. They had interesting case study, like Lake Urmia in Iran that is drying up, and he explained what are the reasons why the lake is drying up and what they are doing to mitigate this problem. It was very interesting. Another opportunity was a student spoke about, I don't remember, it was another case study of, I think it was collecting rainwater harvesting. Harvesting means that you store the rainwater to be used later for other purposes. Rainwater harvesting in her city, I think she was from Spain actually. And it was again interesting. So if you can present a case study, we will talk about water resources management. So if you have an experience close to your town or your country that of water scarcity, and you explain how they dealt with the problem, this would be perfect. Or whatever is technical and pertinent. And you know, technical is a bit subjective, and this is also your contribution. So you should present something that is, again, pertinent, but also providing some technical knowledge to me and to your colleagues. Again, I can give you suggestions, but my experience is that it's more successful, this presentation, if the topic is proposed by you. Because when I suggested topics, students said, not really, too tough, or not really exciting. So I'll give you the suggestion, but again. And then in some lectures, I would like to stop earlier, 10 minutes earlier, and say, now you are obliged to ask questions to me. And maybe one each, but one each is too much. So ideally, I split the students in 3 groups, and I say, okay, I give you 5 minutes for asking me 3 questions.